What is the situation that J.J. McCarthy is stepping into with the Minnesota Vikings to start his career? We're evaluating that today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who make Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every day, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much.
Joe, I want to give a special shout out to a not everydayer. I don't think this person's ever listened to our show. But my Uber driver yesterday, I hope he's having a good day today. He was telling me about his day on Wednesday, about they were hooping at the courts, got into a big fight, thought he broke his hand, and he's a big Birds fan. And then we got into Kendrick and Drake beef and how that thing all played out. You ever get into an Uber ride and you're not really in the mood to talk, but they're chatty, and then you actually do end up having like this really dynamic and enjoyable conversation? You ever have that?
You lost me at the part where it becomes dynamic and enjoyable.
Right. That's the surprise of it, because you hop in and it's always this awkward interaction of somebody you don't know is going to drive you around. And I hopped in, I was getting my car serviced, and I'm like, man, like, I hope it's a quiet ride. And he hopped in and he's like, what's going on, man? How you doing? I said, I'm good. How you doing? He's like, man, hoping for a better day today than yesterday.
Oh no.
And then
he was waiting for you, Kyle.
Yeah, he was waiting to drop it. But we got into the Birds. He's a big Eagles fan.
So is that's the lingo? Birds. If you say the Birds in your parts, right? That's the Birds. Eagles.
Yeah. Everybody.
Do they say that in other bird places, like the Falcons fans say "Go Birds"? Do Seahawks fans say "Go Birds"?
I think the Falcons are the Dirty Birds, right? Or at least they were the Dirty Birds.
Yeah. No,
wasn't the Cardinals # Bird Gang?
Bird Gang, yeah. Ravens flock.
Right. So they're the only ones that don't bring in the birds. I don't think the Seahawks, they only do like the 12s, so they don't have like the 12th bird. It's 12th man.
Yeah.
So I think the team that's kind of cornered the market on just birds, like Go Birds, is the Eagles.
Okay. It's a shame there's no bird mascots out there that are the blue-footed boobies. You know what I mean? Like what a missed opportunity for a great bird to have a team named after him. Always about Eagles and Falcons.
I'm a little disappointed that you were pulling for the Yetis for the new.
Oh, are you kidding me? I will not. I know we got to talk about J.J. McCarthy, but you have opened up a can of words. Yetis is clearly the best choice on the docket for the Utah NHL franchise.
On the docket, yes. Of the options they provided, I would vote for the Yetis.
Okay, well, that's what I'm going for. You have some creative idea on your own?
The option was unequivocally the Utah Raptors, because that is actually a scientific name of a velociraptor subspecies, is the Utah Raptor.
How was I supposed to know this?
They're more qualified to be the Raptors than the Toronto basketball team.
Yeah.
Because you could actually Google Utah Raptor, all one word, and it is a species of velociraptor. Go ahead.
What do you think I'm doing? Wow. Okay, there it is. It's
So how is that not an option?
I've seen this in the Land Before Time for sure.
How is that not an option? How is Utah Raptors for the Utah Raptor, which is named from being discovered in the state,
all right,
not an option?
Sorry, I wasn't up to speed of my dinosaur facts, but okay, if it's not the Yetis, then it should be the Raptors, the Utah Raptor.
But Raptors isn't on the short list, so it's not going to be the Raptors. Who put the black diamonds on there? But we didn't get the.
Yeah, there's some cheesy ones on there. We also can't do the powder. We can't do the Utah powder. Like, we just can't do that, right? Can we just be honest?
It's like, and then they had like Utah HC, like for the soccer style,
hockey club.
Hockey club, or whatever. It's like, no. No, come on, guys. Your
Washington football team.
brainstorms had to be a little bit more robust than that. But anyway,
Skull!
keep it in. We'll keep it in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
Talk about the Vikings. JJ McCarthy. This is our 5th quarterback that we are doing this exercise for, looking at their situation in year 1, grading 6 different categories on a scale of 1, really bad, to 5, really good. Coaching, quarterback room, running game, pass catchers, offensive line, and defense. To this point in time, the rankings for the rookie class, Michael Penix has the best situation with an asterisk, because who knows?
Is it even his situation?
Right. No, it's not, right? It's like, okay, we're grading Kirk Cousins' situation. Caleb Williams, Drake May, and then Jaden Daniels is how we both have ranked the first 4 situations we have done. I think we're going to get some variance here on the next 2 that we do to close the week.
I thought that too when I was preparing. I thought we would see some things differently. So let's do it. All right.
Okay.
First up is coaching. First up is coaching.
Yep.
The head coach of Minnesota Vikings, Kevin O'Connell. I mean, how could you not be impressed with Kevin O'Connell? The 13-4 season, I know that it was very improbable, but boy, oh boy, they kept on figuring it out in tough situations, over and over again. At some point, you got to give them some credit for that. And then I think last year, the success that they did have with all the musical chairs at quarterback and all the injuries that they had on offense was pretty impressive to me, man. So I'm in on Kevin O'Connell. Obviously, an offensive mind, has worked with Sean McVay, which I think people enjoy whenever that's the case, which is also true with Wes Phillips, the offensive coordinator, time on task with Sean McVay, both in Washington and Los Angeles. A big history with tight ends, coaching with Dallas before that. So a very experienced coordinator and coach in the NFL. And then the quarterback's coach being Josh McCown, who, it feels like he was a
good
hot
reputation.
name for, right. Yeah. Some head coaching thoughts there. Got a chance to be the Panthers quarterback's coach last year, which I'm guessing was probably a great opportunity for him to work with Bryce Young and kind of see what that looks like. He could probably apply a lot of that to this coming season. So, Kyle, I'm a pretty big fan of this coaching staff.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to like. I kind of wish we had a bigger sample size of Kevin O'Connell to really have a level of confidence in working with a young quarterback, particularly one that is as moldable as JJ McCarthy is. But I think the things that they have shown and the ways in which they did circumvent all the quarterback adversity last year, you do admire, and you think that that's a really nice foundation to work with.
I give it a 3.75.
I give it a 3.25. I do think it's an above average group. And that ranked amongst all the coaches that we've graded thus far as the second best coaching grade that I gave out for a full staff for a quarterback.
I think it's my best one. This is my best one.
Well,
we'll see about Bo next. Yeah, 3.75 is my best one.
Yeah, you hovered right around average for all 4 staffs.
Yeah,
thus far.
Yeah.
3, 2.75, 2.75, 3, and now 3.75 for JJ McCarthy.
Stay tuned for Bo Nix.
You want to get quarterback room in here?
Yeah, I think we could squeeze it in, right?
All right. So the quarterback room in Minnesota, obviously departing from a tenured veteran starting quarterback in Kirk Cousins. And in his place, they bring in Sam Darnold from San Francisco by way of Carolina via New York. I think that's right. He didn't do the full crazy Baker Mayfield circuit. So I think that was all the stops.
Yeah.
Nick Mullins, speaking of former San Francisco 49ers backups, is the third string quarterback here. And then a 5th round pick from last year's NFL draft in Jaron Hall sits as the 4th quarterback in the room. So some healthy competition for the backup spot for sure.
Yeah.
You have a player in Sam Darnold who was drafted early and can probably relate to JJ as far as some of the stresses and pressures of being an early draft choice and a perceived young franchise quarterback. I think the one thing that I would wish was present was somebody who had a little more success in the league as a quarterback. We talk about some of these veteran quarterbacks and the right balance of knowing you're a backup, but having some success as a player and how you achieved it. And I think that's really the only dynamic for this quarterback room that's missing. But I think there's a lot of very healthy young competition in the room, but nobody that's going to threaten JJ McCarthy's status as kind of the guy. Which I think
that's a good way to. It's a really good way to put it. Like, you like the makeup of what's in the room and the experiences that they've had, and even Nick Mullins is a guy that's had some time in this system, which I think will be helpful. But yeah, you wish you could look at somebody and say, you know what? Yeah, you kind of figured it out, right? Nobody's ever figured it out in this, right? That hasn't happened in this room, which I think helps that there's a guy like Josh McCown who at times figured it out. So he's kind of your equalizer there. I like this, but I think that is a fair criticism. I come in at a 3.5 on this quarterback.
I also came in at 3.5. So we graded this exactly the same. And that is tied for the second best that you gave out with Atlanta and Washington. And the 3.5 is the second best grade that I've given out to a quarterback through the 5 that we have graded to this point in time. So it's an above average grade and above average versus the grade distribution for this year's class.
All right. We're getting into the run game and the pass catchers for JJ McCarthy here in just a moment. So be sure to stick with us. Let's get straight to the point. You want to grow your portfolio to deal with the rising costs of inflation, to pay off your debt or your mortgage, pretty much anything standing in the way of you and financial freedom, right? Well, with Yahoo Finance, you can get access to the news, data, and tools that you need in order to reach that financial freedom. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. And whether you're a seasoned investor or are looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. They are the #1 finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. That's the #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your #1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers.
So I have to address something that's emerged while you were telling everybody about our friends over at Yahoo Finance. I'm in a bracket that somebody put together for like people who cover the Dolphins or whatever. And somebody responded. This is not even a Dolphins fan. It's a Bears fan. So I don't think he's going to hear. Well, maybe he will hear this because it's not on the Dolphins podcast. He said, I voted against grinding the tape until he learns that a score of 2.5 is the midpoint. And 3 is what we've been referring to as like the middle. So that's average. So our math has been wrong this whole time as far as like, if you give something a 3, it's because it's average, when in reality, you should be giving it a 2.5 to be average. Because it's right in the middle.
But it's also like 1 and 2,
mathing.
1 and 2, and then 4 and 5. There's 2 on both sides.
But you can go to 0. Right?
Oh, but we don't go to, like, 1 is the fail. Like, I won't give anybody less than 1.
Here we go. So we got it. 2.5 is not the midpoint on a scale 1 to 5. That would be 3. 2.5 is average on a scale of 0 to 5. Have we given anything a 0 before?
No, and I don't even have it as my criteria is 1 to 5. No, because you're in the NFL and employed in the NFL, that gives you a 1. I don't have zeros as part of my equation.
I've just been saying it wrong. The 3 is the midpoint that we've been using.
Yeah. You said that the other day, and I didn't want to deal with it in the moment, and I never said anything about it.
You cost me a vote in the fan poll.
Well, right now you're beating
'Cause you
Barry
didn't speak
Jackson by
up and defend my
10%,
honor.
Kyle Crabbs. But you're beating him by
You know?
11%. I just voted for you to what did we
Thanks,
get?
man. I
The
appreciate it.
king of the beat of the Dolphins.
I'm not a beat writer.
Right. Well, you're going to be the king
the
of
other
the
two
beat.
guys on the other side of the semifinals are just like Twitter guys.
Some guy with look like he wants to be in The Hangover with these glasses and Barry Jackson. That's the final three.
And just Josh Houts.
Bobby. Okay. All right. Well, I'll
Bobby's
research
the
and
guy
make my
that
vote.
looks like he's from The Hangover, and then Houts is a long-time SB Nation guy.
All right. Well, I'm voting for Kyle Crabbs, my favorite Dolphins analyst.
Your only Dolphins analyst, right?
You know, I feel like I get it all.
Travis
Travis is great, but I get what I need from you. You know what I mean? We talk every day. I get all the intel on what's going on with Miami. My fan thinks my phone thinks I'm a Dolphins fan. I get suggested hats and T-shirts all the time to enhance my Miami Dolphins fandom, and that's all because of you. So thank you.
Well,
my phone is very confused.
Hopefully, we can properly refer to the midpoint between 1 and 5 as 3.
All right, what are we doing here? Where are we at? Get us on track.
We're due to do running game for the Minnesota Vikings after they added Aaron Jones to the room. This might low key, even as Aaron Jones slows down, this might be the single best upgrade at any position across the entire NFL from last year.
That's a very bold statement. That's a great podcast idea. Like, biggest upgrade position groups. Wow. Unbelievable,
Kyle.
Yeah.
Biggest upgrade across the league at every position.
Wow. Okay. That will be fun to figure that out. We're not going to do it right now, though. Resist the urge. We got to talk about this run game. That is
Aaron
a big
Jones
upgrade.
to Alexander Mattison is a interstellar improvement.
Oh, and you've been down on Madison for a while, so I know that feels good for you. So we'll get to him. So he's on the Raiders now, right?
I don't know. I'm going to pretend until I have to
he's on the
acknowledge
Raiders.
that he's still playing. I'm not even going to acknowledge him. Aaron Jones, Ty Chandler, a nice complimentary player of similar physical attributes to step in behind that. And then Dwayne McBride is a rookie from last year. Is kind of the big-bodied guy in the room.
This is what I want to know from you and your thoughts on this. Mm-hmm. We are big Aaron Jones fans, have been since UTEP. We got a chance to meet him at the Super Bowl a few years ago, and he was just incredible. I think one of our all-time favorite interviews that we've ever had.
Correct.
This has been a bottom 5 rushing offense each of the last 2 seasons under Kevin O'Connell. Are you putting that more on our interior offensive line's not good, and they really haven't dealt with it? Like we're rolling with Ed Ingram and Blake Brendel again this year, right? Is it that, or is it because you had late stage Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison?
I think you had the ghost of Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison this past year. Alexander Madison's my new Daniel Thomas. Remember Daniel Thomas with the Dolphins? We'll talk about Daniel Thomas.
The big dude from Kansas. Yeah, the big dude from Kansas State.
That's the guy.
Yeah, I know you're talking.
It's like, dude, you just can't play. So, I think that hurts a lot. Do I have concerns about Dan Feeney, Blake Brandel, David Quessenberry, and Tyrese Robinson and Ed Ingram as the guard options for the team? Yes, I do. Pretty significant questions. But I think there was a requisite Dalvin Cook regression and a failure of threshold with Alexander Mattison that, like, it was never going to happen with that group in my mind. Like, it's not a coincidence.
Ty Chandler looked kind of good last year.
Ty Chandler came in and was like, oh my goodness, like, what a breath of fresh air, he can play. And it's like, well, yeah, he's been behind the guy that can. So I'm giving it an average grade. Between Aaron Jones, I think he's still got a lot in the tank. There's some appealing qualities with the offensive line, particularly the tackle situation. I gave it a 3, acknowledging that it's been bad, but I think that's more about who were the backs as compared to the entire unit as a whole.
I'm at a 2.5 on this.
Coward.
No, I don't have proof of concept.
No, it's fine.
I don't have it.
It's fine.
So
fine. The proof of concept is Aaron Jones.
I've never seen him play for the Vikings behind these guards.
How about Ty? So Ty Chandler play?
I did. All right, Kyle,
Right.
we are going to do pass catchers.
Pass catch. Yeah.
Okay, we're getting in pass catchers right now. Okay, we'll do it.
Yeah. No, we're going to do it after the break. And the argument I'm going to come back to here is Ty Chandler averaged 5 yards a touch on 123 touches last year.
That includes receptions.
Okay, he averaged 4.5 yards per carry.
Right.
On 102
let me
carries.
See it. Let me see it. It's 2.5. Some people would say that's average, Kyle.
Did Alexander Madison crack 3 yards per carry this year?
Well, why don't you find out if he's on the Peyton Barber line?
Oh, dude, he was threatening the what's it called line, the Peyton Barber line.
That's why Peyton Barber line. Okay,
yeah, he was threatening it. Okay,
we are going to talk about pass catchers, offensive line, and defense on the next segment. We promise. That's what we're going to do. So be sure to stick with us. Today's podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest, big or small. Certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased on your life. Therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us have bigger problems than what's going on with our favorite sports team, and it's important to get those things off our chest every once in a while. Therapy is helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It's not just for people who have experienced major trauma. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
This is what happens when we record the Wednesday and Thursday shows on Wednesday and we don't talk for a day.
Right.
Is we get all the extra riffraff. I tried. I FaceTimed you last night. You didn't pick up.
As you maybe not now I was at my daughter's preschool end of year thing, you know what I mean?
So
right. And
my
then
son
I got home, my wife got sick. I will look forward to chatting with him at some point very soon.
All right. Pass catchers. It's a great group. You got wide receiver Justin Jefferson, probably the best wide receiver in the NFL. Very productive second-round wide receiver in Jordan Addison. You did lose one of your pass catchers in KJ Osborne, who left for New England in free agency. I think if he'd have been back, you'd have been in really good shape at the wide receiver room, where I am a little worried about the depth behind the big two. But I think he signed for, what, $7 million a season or something like that in New England?
He did pretty good for himself, yeah.
Economically, it's really hard to justify for a third wide receiver. So I get why he walked. I like the tight end room with Hockenson, obviously a volume player. They've invested a lot in draft capital and contract with him. And then I think Josh Oliver has some receiving appeal. And then you have two pass catchers in Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler out of the backfield, who I think can do a lot of damage as well out of the backfield. So I think this is a pretty well-rounded group as a whole with an elite player in Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I think this is incredible. Hockenson's become a volume player. Aaron Jones, like you mentioned, a great pass catching back. The only concern you have here is like who wide receiver 3 is. And then, they do have Trent Sherfield, who they signed, who didn't have a great season in Buffalo, but
Ooh!
Did something happen, or is that about Trent Sherfield?
Yeah, he left, and it's the joke about it's just Sherfield leaving, and what we talked about the other day about Trent.
Right, but
out-of-context quote about him leaving to go in Buffalo.
But Trent Sherfield had a much better season in Miami, which is a more similar scheme to what he'll have a chance to do with Minnesota. This is 4.5 for me.
Okay, which is the second best grade that you've given out here. No, you gave Chicago a 5.
Oh, well, they have a third receiver.
I actually gave this a better grade than Chicago because I think it's a more well-rounded group. Chicago's third wide receiver is better, but I like Hockenson and Oliver over the tight end room in Chicago. I know Kmet's been a productive player, and Aaron Jones, Ty Chandler, top 2 running backs and their ability to catch the ball. I think if you look at their best 6 options, I think it's a little bit better than Chicago. So I gave it a 4.75, and I give Chicago a 5 or a 4.5. Excuse me.
All right, offensive line. Christian Darrisaw, one of the best young tackles in all of football. If he's healthy, I think he's got the potential to be like a top 3 tackle. Your right tackle, Brian O'Neill, is really solid. Your center, Garrett Bradbury, they've been rolling with him. Obviously, a lot of athleticism, certainly has his own issues, but it's a lot of time on task there. And then I'm very concerned about these guards. Blake Brandel, Ed Ingram, Dan Feeney, Tyrese Robertson. Like, I can't believe we didn't do more here, to be honest with you. So I think that's your issue. I don't know if your horns up. What are we doing here?
No, it's the Wolfpack.
For Garrett
you're big NC State homer, so I'm sitting here doing the Wolfpack.
Right. Thank you. I was trying to figure that out. So I think you're really good at tackle. You're okay at center. You're below average at guard.
I guess the nice thing is there's a few options at guard that like maybe could come in and start at left guard for Brandel. They had Risner who closed the season. I don't think that's a great scheme fit, to be honest. Like I just did like a deep dive on Dalton Risner this week because he's been tied to Miami as far as like fans really want you to sign Dalton Risner to start at guard. I don't think that's a great fit scheme wise. I think he's more of a gap and vertical run game type player as compared to his own player. I just think he's a little tight in the hips, a little overreactive in the lower half. Greg Van Roten's available. You have a couple other players that have been like intermediate starters. So there's some options. I would not be surprised if Minnesota kicks the tires on something here. They probably should. Lucas Patrick, I think, still out there. He's some guard center flex. Well, I'd like that more than Brandel.
Right, me too.
Right. So what did you give it?
2.5.
Okay, 2.5. I give it 3. Because I think what's our general rule for offensive linemen? You can't have two turnstiles playing next to each other, right? You can
as long as we're separated by Garrett Bradbury, we're going to be just fine.
Well, and I think Bradbury's an adequate level starting center.
I agree.
I think he's a great scheme fit for this system in general. You certainly hope Ed Ingram, who was a second-round pick in 2022, kind of takes the next step as a player and evolves his game a little bit more to be a little bit more consistent. So there's some upside there, but I do think the tackle combo and then a sufficient player in the middle in Garrett Bradbury is enough where it's like, okay, like it doesn't blow you out of the water the way that Atlanta's offensive line does. But I also don't think it's the train wreck that Washington's offensive line is. So I'm taking the midpoint of a 1 to 5 and giving it a 3.
Very good.
Which takes us to the defense. Defense led by Brian Flores. A lot of investment in the defensive side of the ball this year between the first-round pick in which they paid handsomely for to trade up to get Dallas Turner. Signing Jonathan Greenard from the Houston Texans in free agency. Andrew Van Ginkel from Miami. They brought over Blake Cashman to play linebacker to go with Ivan Pace, who was a UDFA hit for them last year. Kind of a good fit for Flores and his scheme in general. Was surprised they didn't do more in the secondary, given the need or the pressure that the way Flores plays the defense, the pressure that can put on the back end. Josh Metellus has been a nice find for them as a nickel safety type player. Obviously, they have Byron Murphy as an established starter and Harrison Smith, who's getting a little long in the tooth, but is a kind of a studly player. We'll see if Lewis Seen can take a step forward as a former first-round pick. That hasn't really come together, but the book's not closed there. Obviously, he dealt with some injuries early in his career. So I think there's some appeal. I like a lot of what they did to bring in other names to kind of complement and maybe expand their menu. Like they were a very unorthodox defense last year. It was 0 or drop 8 a lot of the time, right?
Right.
Those are the
two.
Other. But we're gonna show you a lot of aggressiveness no matter what. And either we're gonna drop out or we're coming and we're playing on the islands. So I think if they're going to build off of that, they're going to build off of that. Some of these investments, I think, will be helpful players to do that to give them a little bit more versatility.
I like how they improve their pass rush, man. I really do. Van Ginkel, Dallas Turner, Greenard. I know they lose Hunter and Wanham, so like there's some offset there, but I like these guys better as fits, to be completely honest with you. I think they like these corners more than we think they do. Like a Caleb Evans, Mekhi Blackman. I think they're into these guys more than like maybe we want to give them credit to. Because surely they would have done more.
I'm sure they do because they didn't invest in it. So that makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. I kind of like it, Kyle. I kind of like this defense. I give it a 3.75.
Okay. And I gave it a 3.25. So I also think this is an above average group. I think Flores, another year in the system. The one thing that I will never question about Brian Flores is his ability to coach defense and do it at a high level. So you said you gave this a 3.75?
Yep.
And I gave it a 3.25, which means, Joe, you finished with a 20 and a half, if my math is correct.
Yep,
if my sheet is correct. So that is the second best situation that you have graded this season. Is that correct?
Right.
Yes.
Yep. So
correct.
Behind Penix and ahead of Williams.
And the 20.75 that I finished with JJ McCarthy is the second best situation that I have graded, in front of Caleb Williams, who had a 20, and behind Michael Penix's Atlanta Falcons, who had a 21.5. So we're still lockstep on these.
I think the Bo Nix conversation is going to be pretty fascinating.
Likewise. I feel pretty strongly about where I came out on that one, and that's our next show. We're doing another one today, so come on back and see us and find out where we stand. I'm Kyle Crabbs. He is Joe Marino. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We appreciate you guys for checking out Locked On NFL Scouting. Make it a great rest of your day. I'm out of here. So is Joe.